The Lunaverse, episode 17, I think? Chapter 1, Just Us Big Sisters by Grassy Crowds 2. Chapter 1, World's Strongest Sister. Raindrops tense as she watched the clouds of bees flying over the sunny field. The swarm on her left was buzzing loudly and rolling about itself as the bees within it jockeyed for position, with each little bee tumbling away from others, scurrying back to the cluster. The smaller mob of bees on her right was quieter and more orderly, with its members flying in neat formations and brandishing stingers at the ready. But although one was an unruly mob, and the other was comprised of disciplined warriors, it was clear that both were ready to fight. The only things that separated them were a flower patch of moderate proportions, a lily veil, the trembling mare who owned the field, and Raindrops herself. And Snails, of course. The colt stood directly in the center of the field, with two bees hovering just below his furrowed brow. He occasionally nodded, or made noises of agreement as both bees buzzed and fluttered around. At one point, he raised the hope to pet them when he seemed to be getting excited. Raindrops' heart leapt when one of the bees suddenly surged forward, but rather than sting her little brother, it did a graceful loop in the air before sailing back down. The other bee looked at it, buzzed something, which resulted in Snails graying. "All right, Miss Vale," he called. "I found out the problem."
"You did?"
Lily beamed and wiped her sweaty forehead with a leg.
"Then why are my bees fighting?"
"The bees of your western hive say the other bees have better flowers to pollinate. The purple ones with the really tasty pollen are all on the east side. But the bees in your eastern hive say the other bees have a better home."
Snails gestured at the two beehives. One was obviously newer and sleeker than the other.
"So they're mad at each other."
Lily put a hoof to her mouth.
"I had no idea bees were so peculiar."
Raindrops snored. She had learned from Snails how particular bees were, down to ants having preferences as to what kind of sandwich bread they enjoyed nibbling out of the hooves of his ponies.
"And this is just too damn adorable."
But the farmer didn't seem to notice.
"What can I do?"
"The ones on the east want a new home," said Snails, "and the ones on the west want equal access to the really good flowers."
"I could switch the hives every few days so they follow each other's flowers," offered Lily. "If I do that, will they stop arguing and pollinate my flowers again?"
Snails stopped for a moment, then huddled close with the bee leaders. It took only a few seconds before the bees bounced back to their clouds, which began to disperse.
"Yep," said Snails, "they will.
Then one of the bees, a huge bug with gleaming yellow jet black stripes, broke free from the cloud on the left. It argued with his leader before buzzing straight towards Snails, stinger extended. Snails yelped,
"Hey, stop!"
but the bee didn't listen. Raindrops lunged forwards, but Snails was too far ahead of her, and she knew she couldn't make it in time. The Snails' mane parted, and a large black beetle jumped out of it. As the bee neared, the beetle reared back on its hind legs and kicked forwards. One of its feet slanted to the bee and sent it spiraling away to crash into a flower, scattering pollen everywhere. Snails grinned.
"It's okay,"
he yelled to Raindrops, who stopped snorting for her little brother.
"Leave eyes with me. You'll keep me safe from any meanie bees."
He turned to glare at the fallen bee, who flew away abashed, then looked at Lily.
"These are Hercule beetle. They're the strongest bugs in Equestria. Princess Luna gave them to me."
Lily nodded, then paused.
"Levi?"
she whispered to Raindrops.
"Sulfur Leviathan,"
murmured Raindrops with a smile.
"Surely used the word in class at Cusstock."
Snails turned back to the other bees in the meantime.
"Anyways, the rest of you agree with Lily, right?"
The bees buzzed in unison. Snails quickly bobbed his head up and down.
"It's settled,"
he announced.
"Thank you."
Lily trotted forwards, hugged Snails, who tolerated this with only a slight crunching of his face. He pressed several bits into his hoof.
"I don't know what I would have done without you. You can't very well grow flowers when all my bees are fighting each other."
"Don't worry about it,"
said Snails as Levi climbed up to the tip of his horn, perched there like he had his own fairy chariot.
"Happy to help."
When Lily had hugged Snails once more and left with the bees, Raindrops trotted up to her little brother and ruffled his mane.
"Knew you could help her," she said. "Good job, Squirt."
"Squirt."
Snails tried to frown at Raindrops, but he burst into giggles a few moments later.
"I'm not a squirt."
Raindrops grinned and walked out of the field with him.
"She's the fourth flower you helped since we got back from Caroline, isn't she?"
The wafer mare playfully shoved Snails.
"And you were worried you didn't have a good special talent."
"I guess I was wrong."
Snails was almost skipping as he scampered down the path. Raindrops found herself hurrying to keep up.
"I've got an awesome talent. I can make sure all the bugs in town are happy."
And also that all the farmers are happy because the bugs are helping them,
added Raindrops. That too. Snails turned back to Raindrops with a huge smile on his face. Hey, if I'm so good at talking to bugs, can I do that part-time thing in Canterlot? I bet I can do a real good job.
Raindrops smiled caught.
2 weeks prior, Raindrops, Cheerily, Carrot Top, and Snails had been in Canterlot when a group of vigilantes had attacked several individuals in town. Equestria's Minister of War, Archduke Fresser, had declared martial law in the mistaken belief that the vigilantes were involved with the forces of the tyrant sun, resulting in the castle being sealed off. All routes out of the city had shut down, and the city's entire police and guard forces being redirected to hunt for the cult. With no way to escape the city and no point to turn to, Raindrops had been forced to leave Snails in the underground garden of her old enemy, Duke Greengrass, while she, Cheerily, and a hapless noble pony named Baron Max chased down and stopped the vigilantes from killing anyone. Raindrops didn't like it, mostly because she didn't trust Greengrass as far as she could throw him, but it had been the only way to protect Snails from the increasingly unhinged vigilantes. All of this has been told back in the excellent Dust Dust Little Ponies. I hope you listened to the last episode. To her surprising relief, Greengrass had hurt Snails, and even helped Twilight Sparkle and Carrot Top to keep him safe from a squad of monsters Raindrops had antagonized earlier in the day. Furthermore, once the crisis was over, Greengrass had offered Snails a weekend job working with his bugs in the garden. This was, of course, something Snails really wanted, and also something Raindrops didn't like because he really did not want to deal with Greengrass anymore. In total, the offer did little other than annoy her immensely, which she thought was probably why she made it.
I'll think about it,
she told Snails again as they walked towards the next set of fields. The apple trees and sweet apple acres stretched before them, and Raindrops helped Snails climb over the fence so they could cut through the orchard to get to Applejack's main barn.
But the farms in town are just as good, and you won't need to travel all the way to Canterlot every other weekend to...
Nuh-uh. His garden has some of the awesomest bugs everywhere. They're really cool ones I've only seen in books.
Snails looked at Raindrops with bright eyes. And he said he might even get a couple of helpers, but I could be in charge because I know so much already. Nobody's ever put me in charge of anything before, so, he trailed off. Unless you think he might be mean to me.
He wouldn't dare hurt you, said Raindrops at once. No pony would. You got the world's strongest sister, and if any pony trying to hard one little hair in your mane, I'd knock him silly.
She lightly punched a tree, rustling its leaves.
You don't need to worry.
Raindrops hugged Snails tightly. Then why can't I go? He asked. I promise I'll do a real great job and make you really proud and...
I'm already proud of you,
said Raindrops. She knelt and quickly clambered on her back, the Hercules beetle wearing up on his horn as he did so.
You're the best little brother in the world. You got a real great special talent, kind, friendly, loving, and...
She trailed off while thinking more compliments. Snails kind of with a sly voice. Or that awesome, I could take the job, right? I mean, an awesome pony like me needs an awesome job. And when Raindrops glanced back, she saw her little brother was beaming.
Mare sighed to herself. Let's talk about it after the party, okay?
An idea for changing the subject occurred to her, and she smiled.
Speaking of which, I need you to remember something when we get there.
What?
When we get to the party, remember, just because you got the coolest ride of all your friends, that doesn't mean you should brag too much.
Raindrops chuckled.
Even though no pony's gonna show up there on a mare as cool as me, don't rub in their faces, okay?
Snails laughed. Okay, he said as he approached the barn. Everything had already been set up for Apple Bloom's birthday party. Party games had been set up inside the barn. Long tables of refreshments were lined up the outer walls. A dozen foals had already arrived and were running around a nearby field. Applejack herself stood by the barn door and waved to Raindrops and Snails.
I have the noon,
she called.
Make yourself at home, Snails. You too, Raindrops. If you want apple cinnamon donuts, some apple cider, or a big case of apple pie, feel free to help yourself.
Thanks. Raindrops tried closer to Applejack, and Snails craned his neck to look at everything.
Don't mind if I do. Your apple donuts are pretty tasty.
Ah, shucks. Applejack smiled toward the Snails.
How you doing, Snails? Having a good night?
Snails nodded vigorously. Yep, he said. I helped Lily's bees get along again, and I had really good honey oats for breakfast, and I got the coolest ride here. He paused. Raindrops blushed, wishing she hadn't put this idea in Snails' head. But Applejack just laughed.
That is a pretty cool ride.
She agreed, stepping forward and scrutinizing Raindrops.
But you don't want to buy us here. So since Apple Bloom's gonna be popping in on Big Mac's back,
Someone yelled from past the gate. Alexander and Raindrops turned to see a fast-moving cloud of dust approaching, with sounds of heavy footsteps, almost as loud as thunder bursting out from inside it. Raindrops yelped and was able to jump out of the way with Applejack before the newcomer leapt over the front gate, slamming on the ground hard enough to knock them both over. Raindrops calmed and then pushed herself up, then gaped. The pony in front of her was the largest mortal pony Raindrops had ever seen, surpassing even the Titanic Goliath, the largest of all the Canterlot vigilantes for sheer volume. The pony's coat, bulging as if struggling to enclose all of her muscles, was a dark purple with red undertones. Her blue mane only a few shades lighter. Her key mark, a shield with a horn emblem on its front, was bright pink that looked almost garish on her bulky flank. She wore a sword at her side, a large one seasoned in a black and silver scabbard. Her long horn tapered to an exceedingly sharp point. This, Raindrops thought, was a pony built for war.
Here,
the pony said in a thick Russian accent.
She turned towards her back. It's time for a party, like I say.
See, her mouth twisted upwards at approximation of a smile.
You happy?
Raindrops played and noted 3 foals lasted a rope on the newcomer's back. 2, Apple Bloom and Firelock, were dangling against her stun. When the new pony's horn glowed, the rope untied itself. Both halves jumped and halves jumped and doubled off. Apple Bloom stumbled towards the Applejack.
Can you get the farm to stop spinning, please?
She murmured. The 3 seemed paralyzed with joy.
That was awesome!
Screamed Scootaloo at last, flying down running circles around the new pony.
Can I go again, please, 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 please?
Her voice was somehow more energetic than usual. Her voice beat rapidly as she could control herself.
That was the coolest ride ever!
Snails looked at Raindrops, who sweetly smiled.
Okay, she said. Maybe you came here on the second best ride here.